Well, I knew I was going to have to review this one. After years of anticipation, I just watched Shelby Oaks, which is the feature film debut from film critic turned writer-director Chris Stuckmann. To say I was anticipating Shelby Oaks would be a complete understatement. Firstly, I need to talk about the man himself, Chris Stuckmann. He was the very reason I started my channel back in 2015. I always struggled talking about my love of movies growing up because my friends at the time just were not interested at all. Chris inspired countless individuals, not just me, to pick up a camera and talk about movies online. And creating a channel and finding an audience was very exciting. It felt like I had this purpose while I was in high school. I specifically loved his analysis videos, and they very much inspired the video essays I began to create on my own. On a deeper and more personal level, I was among the 14,000 backers to this movie via Kickstarter, and my name is in fact on one of the posters designed for the film. And I backed this thing back in 2022, so this has been a long time coming. Earlier this year, I learned the film was picked up by Neon, the company behind the most recent Best Picture winner, Anora. And in addition, Mike Flanagan himself became an executive producer for this movie. All these elements increased my, and I'm pretty sure everyone else's expectations for Shelby Oaks. And now that it's finally out, we can now talk about it, so let's dive into the review of the movie. Shelby Oaks tells the story about the disappearance of a young woman named Riley Brennan, a YouTuber behind the channel Paranormal Paranoids, which centers on a team who investigates supernatural activities and encounters. The investigation continues through her older sister Mia, who will stop at nothing to find Riley. What she faces along the journey brings up trauma from both their childhoods as well as a supernatural entity. Now, the billion-dollar question on everybody's mind is, for a guy critiquing other people's movies for over 15 years of his life, how does Stuckmann's feature film debut stack up? Did it fail to live up to everybody's expectations, or did it exceed them? In my opinion, I think it sits somewhere in the middle. Let me start with the positives. The performances in Shelby Oaks are top-notch, especially Camille Sullivan, who plays Mia. You can absolutely feel her desperation to find her long-lost sister. When she is scared, we're scared alongside her. And you can feel how unsolved mysteries impact those closest to any victim. The film begins like a found-footage horror movie intertwined with news reports on Riley's disappearance. And to me, this is where I believe the film is at its strongest. The mystery is set up extremely well. Mia's character later on receives, I'll use that in quotes, a new tape with more information about her sister's disappearance. The scene where she views the tape was by far the best scene in the movie. Now, for those who know Chris Stuckmann, one of his favorite movies is Signs, and that movie has one of the most infamous found footage sequences ever. So this was definitely sort of like an homage to that in a way. I swear, the tension was so high here, you could literally hear a pin drop in the auditorium. It was incredible. Stuckmann clearly knows not only the significance of blocking a scene, he also knows the significance of lighting a scene, especially one in the dark. He knows that unlike many modern day movies shot at night, we like to see what the hell is going on. Shelby Oaks is a well-polished film. The production design is fantastic, and I believe the special effects blended together to create some great tension. And the found footage sequences feel like they were shot on a crusty old video camcorder from the early to mid-aughts.
Having said that, I do have some thoughts.
The first half of Shelby Oaks was quite strong. I was very entertained and engrossed. But its second half is very problematic. It falls into numerous cliches that just holds it back from its overall potential. All the setup, especially the supernatural edge, feels like it amounts to very little during a third act that feels undoubtedly rushed. There's a quote Chris made when he reviewed Spider-Man 3, which he referred to as the film's WTF moments, that has always stuck with me, no pun intended.
Things that if anyone had just tapped somebody on the shoulder and said, hey, that's stupid, don't do that, they could have avoided it.
There is a decision made by the lead character during the third act that almost made me want to yell at the screen, why did you leave that behind? Why would you do that? My friend who was with me pretty much said the same thing, and I could overhear people after the movie was over whispering, the same thing. Also, during the second half, someone in the auditorium fell asleep and was snoring. And despite my best efforts, it was definitely distracting during certain moments. And it was like, wow, somebody fell asleep watching this movie. That's kind of sad. The hype behind Shelby Oaks is less about it being a pioneering horror film and more in the fact that it's Chris Stuckmann's debut. Meaning, if someone who didn't know him goes to see this movie due to it being distributed by Neon, I can see them being quite disappointed by the end result. I may sound like a broken record, as I've heard others say this, but the supernatural entity feels very undercooked, to the point where it hurts the movie in the long run. It could be due to gaps in the script or time constraints, but there are numerous questions about what it is and its abilities that are left completely unanswered. Overall, I think Shelby Oaks' technical merits are very good, and there is a chilling atmosphere surrounding a mystery engulfed in found footage. But where the mystery goes is just very unsatisfying. What could have made it more engrossing was if we spent more time with Mia and Riley when they were younger. They feel so detached from one another due to their separation, but it comes across like there were scenes cut out that would have made the film and their bond a lot stronger. And lastly, the movie ends in a very abrupt and anticlimactic manner, as if to say, we'd have to wait for a sequel to come along and answer these questions. While this likely won't happen, there's enough here that I would recommend seeing Shelby Oaks on the big screen. You can definitely tell with Shelby Oaks, this is a movie that he was passionate to make. He definitely, I feel, is strongest in the directing field. I do think his screenplay needed a little more work. In a way, this is a tremendous crash course in what to do and what not to do. But that's the fascinating thing about filmmaking. There's always something to learn. There's always something to be taken away from a situation, especially when you have limited time and limited resources to pull something off. For a movie on a budget of somewhere between $1 to $2.5 million, it is one of the lowest budgeted movies to get a wide release. I think he said that in a video, but it truly is inspiring. There's no doubt about that. I'm developing a feature film of my own, and seeing a movie like Shelby Oaks on the big screen with a budget that low, it absolutely gives me hope that one day a project of mine could be on the big screen, or someone else's project like that could be on the big screen. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate the support. It was great to see Chris Stuckmann's feature film debut. It was great to be a supporter of the film, and even though Shelby Oaks isn't the cinematic home run I was hoping to be, especially in the screenwriting department, I do believe this is a good jumping off point, and I do remain excited to see what he does next.